What are companies doing wrong?
A lot of things. So, I mean, starting from not giving consumers the rights that they have been now granted under the CCPA, which are 5 fundamental rights. So the right to know what data is actually being collected, right to access that data, right to delete that data, the right to opt out from the sale of data, and the right to non-discrimination, which means not being able to price it differently if somebody exercises their data privacy rights. Not having anything in place that allows consumers to actually act on those rights, being not addressing these types of requests in a timely manner. There's a whole bunch of pitfalls, and companies are unfortunately failing left and right.
It's interesting to hear you say that, especially when you do have some companies like Microsoft who are taking this legislation, this regulation very, very seriously, and not only looking to introduce it in California, but on a nationwide level as well.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, there are thought leaders for sure. And companies like Microsoft are simply recognizing that the way companies deal with data privacy is a huge differentiator in the decision-making process for consumers. So consumers want to do business with companies that respect their data privacy rights. I've said this before, but 87% of customers will take their business elsewhere if they don't trust how a company handles their data. And Microsoft recognizes that and wants to be a thought leader, and good for them.
Datawallet is one of several companies that has this idea that consumers should control their data and actually profit off of access to it, right? I'm a little uncomfortable with that because it seems like, okay, I got a problem with break-ins in my area, so I'm going to charge for admission to my house as the solution, instead of just making sure the wrong people don't get into my house. Certainly. I'm not sure I want a market in my data. Yeah. I want people to stay away from it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's very fair, and we want to be able to service all of those concerns. So if you want your data to be kept private, that should be your right, and you should be able to enforce that. Companies should adhere to that. That is a really big part of what we do. We have an entire compliance product that if you say, I don't want anybody to access my data, I don't want you to sell my data, that is being enforced through our platform. However, at the same time, there are individuals who say, companies are making money with that data anyway. I would like to have a share in that upside. So we are creating a market where that is possible. And we are really striving to do that in a way where it's privacy-preserving computation, where none of your data, like underlying data, is actually exposed, which is possible. It's a little future forward, but it is possible, and that's one of the core pieces we're working on.
So does that mean that this privacy regulation in California is a tailwind or a potential boon for a company like Datawallet?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for us, it's really good business because a lot of companies are confused. They are looking for help. And we make it very easy, not just related to the California Consumer Privacy Act, but to SB 220 in Nevada, to GDPR in Europe. There's 10 other data privacy regulations which are probably going to come into effect in 2020. We want to make it easy for companies to comply. And for us, it's good business. Absolutely.
You said earlier that, was it 70-something% of consumers say that they will not do business with a company they feel doesn't respect it. Is that something they just say? I mean, is that a survey result? Because by evidence, it doesn't seem as if people move their business elsewhere.
Certainly, that's a very, very fair concern. It is a survey from PricewaterhouseCoopers. But I think it just goes to show that the sentiment has changed. About 4 or 5 years ago, nobody really cared about, their data. People weren't even thinking about their data. It was a non-issue. We're now in a regime where it's top of people's minds, and where companies do recognize, such as Microsoft, that they need to make a change. And the first ones to make that change will benefit from it.
Do you think we're going to see more? I mean, there's already some challenges, legal challenges to this privacy law in California. How would you expect this to play out? And I guess in light of that, would you expect to see broader adoption around the rest of the country?
Yeah, certainly. So I think it will come down to how the CCPA is enforced. The California Attorney General has mentioned in the past that he will enforce this rigorously. He will especially go after companies that are dealing with data on minors. He said that was his focal point for the first couple of enforcements. And I think it's just about setting precedent, showing companies that if you are not treating your customers' data carefully, if you're not being a good data custodian, you will be held accountable. And I think that's going to be a very, very important precedent for possibly the federal data privacy regulation.
All right, Serafin, thank you for joining us.